I'm joined by the recently retired Trevor May. And Trevor, you're doing all kinds of things, making videos, you're staying busy, you're getting up early in the morning. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I mean, things are a little crazy right now. I'm not sure how much you've been paying attention to the fact that the owners' meetings are about to take place, but your former team, a relocation vote could be coming hours from now, any day now. I mean, what do you think about how this whole process is playing out for Major League Baseball?
Yeah, not the smoothest thing in the whole world, I don't think. It comes down to it. There's just so many even from a business standpoint, it's hard to even make the case that it's a, you know, knock it out. It's like a easy homer, like with the like it's not really one of those like we would be stupid not to move situations, which those do exist and they have in the past. This isn't one of them, so that's what's making it really interesting, I think. And yeah, even from that standpoint, I don't really, you know, understand the urgency. So it'll be interesting to see what the other owners think, but if the past has been any indication of how they operate, I wouldn't hold your breath about them being the last bastion of resistance.
Yeah, I mean, an article just leaked saying it was iffy, but they plan to vote it through anyways, which kind of tells you everything about this process so far. I don't see how this pencils out, to be honest, but it seems like they're going to ram it through because they would never hold a vote unless they were actually going to vote in the positive, right?
Yeah, like you just don't hold. It's like Congress. They just don't hold a vote if they're not going to get what they want. It's that's probably what's going to happen. And then we'll hear about like two, maybe three owners later, like I wanted to vote no, but it'll be unanimous, right? So, which is lip service, and it's it that doesn't matter if you what your secret desires were. That if you don't act on your on what you say you want, then it doesn't matter. But we'll see. I mean, I'm obviously projecting. Hasn't happened, so it's just guessing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see, and I really hope that I really hope that it's not quoted that like, we don't have a plan to not move the team. We have a plan for moving the team. Like it'll be more work. Like there'll be a lot of that. So just expect a lot of weak arguments for the yes vote. And but yeah, I'm trying not to be pessimistic, but or cynical, but sometimes like when the same thing happens over and over again, you probably should learn. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But and there is cause for hope. The fact that there's any rumblings at all that there's it could be dicey or iffy in terms of a yes, then that's better than it just being rammed straight through and just done. So hopefully there's enough shaking going on or some pressure being put on in other directions that can help the right decision be made.
Yeah, and just so people watching this know, I mean, we set up this interview a couple weeks ago, actually, and it just happens to be like the day of the owners' meeting starting. So I'm kind of hitting with you with all this stuff right off the top, but there's
Yeah.
plenty of other things I want to get into with you, your career, everything, post career, all that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, how much did you guys really see and hear this going on during the season? I know that it was really loud at times, like the reverse boycott day or the Unite the Bay Day or reverse boycott too, all the things the A's fans did. But as an MLB player, especially with a lot of young guys on that squad, you really have to kind of come in and focus on your job, like what you're trying to do that day. And you can't let these outside distractions mess with you. But I would have to imagine the noise created was something that the guys in the clubhouse were actually paying a bit of attention to, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's hard not to, but again, I think I mentioned this a few times now. That the team is so young that it was just a better, that culture of like, don't rock the boat too much or don't have too strong of opinion. Because frankly, like not having a lot of experience in how things work at that level and how the power structures are, young guys don't have a lot of experience with dealing with front offices or dealing with, even like staff that's been around there's like a lot of different types of authority going on there. And when you're young and you're trying to establish yourself, you really don't want to step on the toes of your owner, no matter how petty he might be. So yeah, you know, when you're 23, you don't know how to tiptoe around a 55-year-old's feelings. So it's like, I, I just, I didn't expect anybody to have a really strong vocal opinion about it, and they didn't. A lot of guys, to be honest, I was the guy who had that luxury to just be like, this isn't right. This sucks. I'm with them on that. I want to, you know, and guys would kind of just like let me talk, which I understand. I would have been the same
Hmm.
way at 24. I would have been like, I would have felt something probably, but I would have kept it to close to vest at least until I got established. Because guys just at the end of the day, they want to have a career, and it's hard enough. So just know that like, and all teams are like that. They have most of the team is like that, not rocking the boat. And it's up to a chosen few of guys who've been around, who have established themselves, who have a little bit of space to make comments like, or to have opinions like this and lead in that way. And same thing goes for like the Players Association. It's the same type of situation when you have a lockout or something. You need the older guys who aren't so afraid of losing, or not, don't have so much to lose, spearheading those conversations, and that like taking hard stances on things, because they have the luxury of doing that, and there's some security there of doing that. And those guys, it's their responsibility. So I try to take that responsibility and just like make people aware, make the guys aware if they didn't fully understand, like, why is everyone so upset about this? Well, here's the forces of play, and here's the behavior that's happening, and here's the patterns that we see over and over again. And I've seen it a bunch of times since I've been playing, like stuff like that. So yes, there's an awareness. Would, you know, these guys look at the teams that were, you know, like the Braves, and like the way that the teams that have won very consistently recently have their, how loud it is there, and they can count on sellouts and all that kind of stuff. And you know, the A's were like that, have been like that many times, especially recently, like with these 2, 3 year, 4 year stretches where they were one of those places. It's very hard to play as an away player. It still is, but uh, you know, they look at those things like, you know, I wish we had that all the time. I wish we had this reverse boycott stuff all the time. And then I was like, well, here's why. And it's not only because of how we're playing. You guys, me, I was there too. How we're playing.
Yeah.
It's not only that. Yeah, of course that has something to do with it, but you know, you also can't expect you guys to suddenly like know how to win 100 games. Like, it's just, you learn that. Um, and so it's just a lot of that. It was just a lot of having the conversations, and even if no one's going to act on anything, or really like, if I go public and have a public a voice about things like that, I can't expect 25 guys to line up behind me and start to just say, yeah, especially when they have an undetermined amount of time with the organization moving forward. And it's the same thing with you know, I see a lot of people getting on like the PR staff and the media, social media team for the team, like for not congratulating me on a career, or thanking me for the season. But they can't do that, and I get it, and I know these people, like, I know who runs it, and I know them personally, and I know that we have a good relationship, and I don't need that. I don't need them to do something publicly like that in order to make me feel good for a little bit. Like, I know how they felt, and I talked to them personally. So like, I don't need anything like that. And I understand the position that they are put in. So that kind of stuff, like, it's the same thing with players. Like, I don't expect anyone to be as public and front facing about it as I am. And frankly, I've waited a long time for the day where I can be a little bit more open and be more me, because when I feel like there's an injustice, I can't help but say something.
For sure, yeah. And I think people were really excited when you came on board to the A's too, because you have the platform, you have the social skills, you have all the nice recording equipment, and people are excited just to hear your opinions. And so I know it must have been really hard to just kind of sit back and bite your tongue to some extent. And I don't think anyone blames, you know, the guys, like the guys in the clubhouse. They're
Yeah.
young, they can't speak out. I think that it's really funny though, because, you know, I would go there at certain times. I cover all the teams now. I used to be there every day back in the day, but, you know, I'd introduce myself to some of the younger guys on the team, and they'd always be like, yeah, I know you have all your stuff. And
Yeah,
it just showed you that they kind of do pay attention to
we do.
a lot of the issues, but they can't say much. And what you said was really, really, I think something we should kind of stick on for a second. Like, the team employees, the PR people, the security guards, just everybody at the ballpark, like, they can't say anything. Like, they can't, and they shouldn't be expected to sacrifice their jobs, their incomes, their living wages to speak out against, you know, a handful of guys. I mean, this is really an issue with ownership. It's not the PR staff. It's not the players. It's not Kotsay who had to answer all the questions every day because John Fisher was invisible and Dave Kaval was invisible. I mean, I saw Kaval opening day. I never saw Fisher. Actually, I've been around the team since 2005. I don't think I've ever seen him in person. So just threw a lot of stuff there at you, but I think those are some important points to kind of harp on. Did you ever really have or even see John Fisher aside from,
No.
I guess, presumably him signing paychecks?
No, I never saw John, and it was established. It was, and this was through just like mentions and through context of other conversations, just like overheard or people like planning for things like, yeah, you can't count on him being involved in any way. So let's move forward and do our best here. And so starting spring training, it was abundantly clear I probably was not going to see John, especially with how they're projecting maybe the move was going to be announced this year. Like they were getting closer. The closer we got to that, the farther away he probably got from the stadium. And now there's a good chance that he might not set foot in that stadium again until the team moves, because he just doesn't want to deal with, I think they're called consequences for your actions. I don't know how often I don't know how often that's been in his vocabulary. So, it's frustrating. I saw Dave once, for picture day, where we took a picture with the front office for the first time ever, which was weird.
Yeah,
And
probably awkward.
seemed a little bit weird timing to get all the players with, like, we're all in this together, and it's like, I mean, we don't have a choice. No one here has a choice but you and the guy above you. Like, that's it. It's just the way that it is. But like, I knew that going in, so I was just like, okay, I'm not going to count on this. Like, this is going to be the opposite of what Steve Cohen was. We saw Steve Cohen once a week. But he's one of those guys. Like, he would sometimes go and greet people coming in the stadium. Like, that's just the way. That's why he bought the team. Like, this was his thing. Like, this was one of his life goals. So now he's like achieving one of his life goals, and that's the type of thing that is fun as a player, seeing an owner buy in like a player should. Like, players want to buy in like that. Like, I wanted so badly to be somewhere and be like, this is my team, even though it's not where I'm from. Like, it's very easy. Like, it would have been very easy to be bought into the Mariners, because I bought into the Mariners my whole life. Like, it's very much like that in Minnesota. I had lots of conversations with guys who played a year, were from there, and got to play a year there at some point. And they're like, it's just so easy to buy in here. It just is, because it's such a close-knit community, close-knit family. And I think every organization has a level of that. So that's what the sad part is, because it's one of the employees for the A's are like one of the most close-knit, loyal groups of people. And that extends to the fans. Like, it's so tight. Two people wearing an A's hat, it's like they might hug, right? Like, there might be a hug on the BART, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that is a level that is just like, that's what sports are for, in my opinion. And it's not very, it doesn't feel very good when the top of the pyramid of this supposedly really close-knit family, like the patriarch of the group, like, kind of ignores your existence, and you're in pain and you're not being acknowledged. I think that's just, I understand the system we live in. I understand how I'm abundantly clear on like whose prerogative you can do it if you want to do it. That's the nature of how these things are set up. You own a business. You can move the business. Like, that is within your rights. Everyone understands that. Yeah, we might disagree of your freedom to do that and how quickly you can, and how easily it is for you to do it. But it is something that you can do, and it is something that lots of businesses do all the time. But there is a way to do it to at least show the people that are being adversely affected that that they're being adversely affected, and that you're thinking about it and you're thinking about them, because at the end of the day, the least you can do is think about the people you're affecting. And if that hurts you, then you need to grow up and deal with it, because you're making a very large decision about a lot of people's lives. And I'm getting really fed up of one person being able to adversely affect thousands of people and then take no responsibility for it. And this seems to be a pattern in the Bay at the moment. And it's not just John. There's a lot of people that if they don't have to, they won't do it. And that's just a terrible way to go about your life, in my opinion.
Yeah, what did you think about? I mean, the announcement came out, and we talked about this being able to speak out, being able to answer questions, being able to be accountable as a leader. But the news came out about relocation. It was April 19th. And then the next time the A's played, it was a ghost town. I mean, from an ownership leadership standpoint. And that left Kotze, you guys, Kemp. I mean, I remember talking to all these players, and everyone's like,
We don't know
I
what to
don't know.
do.
It's not my thing. I
Yeah.
didn't do this, but here you are stuck having to answer for their actions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the nature of the game too. That's just the nature of being an athlete. I think there's this, like, you learn accountability early. Like it's one of the first things that you're told constantly. Be accountable, be accountable, be accountable for your play, for your actions, for your attitude, for how you act on the field, how you act in media, because you're always under scrutiny. And so we are good at it, but that doesn't mean that we like holding water or talking about something that we don't agree with. And we even if we wanted to get more information and be more, if I wanted to be more educated about the nuts and bolts of the situation so that I could have a more holistic understanding of of everything, I couldn't even get that information because nobody that I have access to knows either. And that's the, like, if you want to run a large organization and a good business, you got to communicate. And when you just cut off communication between the people who make the ultimate decisions and the people who are supposed to put those or act on those decisions, I don't understand how you think that's going to work well or be a good, like, process. And I'm just a cog in that machine, way down. So I would love to know, because I would love to be wrong. I would love to have more detail and be like, hey, actually, there's some things we don't know about. But the fact that those things aren't being mentioned tells us that they're not there. And
Yes.
that's how can we possibly know about things we don't know about if you don't tell us?
I'm reaching out to the A's and I'm saying, if there's a side to this story that needs to be told, I don't care if people will be mad at me for telling it. Like, the truth needs to be out there about this. And the A's choose not to say anything.
Yeah.
If they have a position that can be defended, by all means, let's hear it. But what you hear is crickets. You hear nothing. And I think that speaks volumes about what's going
Yeah.
on right now.
It's hard to defend when, even if you believe something's indefensible, then you're really not going to talk about it. And you're just going to try to get it over with and get it through and be like, well, it's over now. Ha! Let me try to appear again. And I have a feeling that is going to be part of this. We'll
Yes.
hear a little bit more. They'll start to be like, is it okay to come out now? And it's just not going to, it shouldn't be okay to come out. Frankly, I yeah, it's very, very frustrating. Adults want communication. Like, people just want to feel like they're being heard and seen and noticed. That's all anyone wants, really. The very bare minimum of being a human being, I think, is people just acknowledge that they're there. And that goes a long way. And it's not hard. It's just not hard. It's just not hard. There's no excuse. There's nothing out there that should be preventing that. The same thing comes with, like, we did this during the lockout, right? And I had some strong words on the radio for our commissioner. Now, again, since I've made those comments and I've thought a little bit more critically about how our commissioner has 30 people who are his bosses, who all have differing voices, and I'm sure that they don't all agree on everything either. They got cliques and factions and stuff going on, 100%, because everything does. So he has to figure a way to communicate that in some way. So, like, I can think what I want about him as a person, or about the way, or not like the way he communicates or says things, but, like, he is a filter for a bunch of other people who have agendas and interests, and that's very hard to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
but he mentioned something about how hard it is to run a baseball team, and how, like, COVID hurt the pocketbooks, and it's the money's being lost here or there. And then you say, okay, cool, like, just show me where it says that. And they're like, no, you're probably lying then. Sorry. Like, if you refuse to show me what you're talking about, you prove it at all or ever, then it's probably not real, because it's really easy to prove that it is. And you're choosing not to do that. So what else am I supposed to think? And it gets really old really fast when claims are made and just never, and they don't have to back them up. So they don't. And that's not evil. That's not, like, there's nothing, it's not nefarious either. I don't think it's malicious. I just think it's the way it's set up on purpose, so that those things can be just kind of a skirt. Like the power is so far in one way that you don't have to, there's no checks and balances anymore. And when that starts to happen, it gets really frustrating for the people who are affected and have no, you don't feel like you have any agency. That's just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that from like a private enterprise, standpoint, but if you're asking for public money for something, you should have to present some information to the public. And that's where I think they're missing the mark on this whole relocation vote, which is supposed to happen any day now. I think that's really interesting. I think it's also telling that the A's have a lease to play at the Coliseum through 2024. After that, they have nowhere to play. And they haven't even made any efforts to extend that lease. And they don't seem to know where they're going to be. It's almost like they're not even worried about what happens after next year. They just want to get past this owners meeting. And I don't know what that short-sightedness says to me, but it can't speak well to what their plans are. And as a former MLB player, just recently retired, what do you think about like the possibility of this team playing in a minor league park in Las Vegas or any minor league park at all? Do you think the players union would ever go for something like that where you have like the Yankees in a visiting minor league clubhouse? I mean, I can't imagine anybody would ever want to do that.
Well, that'll be remedied by upgrades, right? They'll say bare minimum. We can put another we could put a level on this thing in an off season. We could, or like, just like we can put another 5,000 seats in here. We can extend these clubhouses a little bit more. We can commandeer some of this, like some of the intern space for players. We can do all this stuff, especially in Vegas, because that place was just renovated recently. So it's really nice. It's up there for minor league parks. Like it's top 3. And so that case is going to be made, and they'll be like, this is a good stopgap because it's as close to a big league situation as you can get, and it's in the area and it's close. And I bet you that's what happens. And they'll say, oh, and then they'll just do what we've been doing recently and be like, well, we have better stuff for the players. The players don't have to do the dues anymore. They have to do this. There'll be the same. They'll be like, they'll give some nominal concessions that are not really meaningful long term to placate the players. And that is exactly what's going to happen. So watch that wherever it is, whether it's in Las Vegas minor league team, or if they go get or if they're able to sneak into another minor league spot. I don't really know what other options there are besides going to Vegas. I don't know where they put the AAA team. That's what's interesting. Or if they share with Arizona. I just feel for because those are the 2 big ones I think that have been thrown around. Which, to be honest, there's guys who are like, they would love the Arizona thing because, yeah, you have to move your stuff in and out. That would be a nightmare for Matty Weiss and the guys in the clubhouse. Nightmare. And I feel so bad for them. But it would probably be the best situation for players because spring training's there. They wouldn't have to move. You could just stay in your house. A lot of guys live there. Like, they just live
a lot
at
of
home.
guys live in Arizona.
And it's good. It's a great park, and like, Chase is awesome. It's a really good setup. There's minor league parks everywhere too. Like, there's just a lot of parks you can use too. So they could do whatever, whatever. I don't know. Playing Hokum for the first month. I don't know what you do.
No one knows. That's the problem.
That'd be really interesting if they stayed
have $60 million a year in their TV deal that they're going to lose if they leave the Bay Area too. So I mean, I'm sure John.
Yeah, and if you go to Arizona, you're sharing. Then now you're sharing.
Yeah, there goes all your
Arizona.
Money.
So that's probably why they don't want to do that. I guarantee you they would love to do the Vegas thing because they have the framework close and they could do it. But I just feel for the guys, because the biggest reason for me, a big reason for not playing for 15 years or trying, was the insecurity of the way that the life is. Like, mine was like, I was as secure as it could be, but like, I never owned the home I lived in during the season, not once. I'm a reliever. We don't sign 5-year deals, so they just don't happen. There's like 3 guys on 5-year deals as relievers. So I couldn't buy a house anywhere I was. I was always renting. Even this year, like anticipating the trade deadline, I was like, my plan was going to be bring 1 suitcase full of stuff, and that's what I had for 2 months. That's awful. I hate that. Like, that's the least thing. I like security. I like being grounded where I am, and that's the opposite. But it's one of those things you can wrap your head around it. You can do it. But like, for a lot of guys, that's what their lives are. I played with a guy who had all of his stuff in his truck, and he played till he was 40, and he did it his whole career. and he just like he nomaded it up, and I'm just like, I hate that. It's the least thing, at least enticing thing I can think of for a living situation. And if they don't know where they're going, that just like it's just more uncertainty on top of the players and the staff and the like. Then everyone who works for the team's like, am I moving to Vegas? What do or are we just hiring new people? Look what's happening. So like the number of question marks just makes it super stressful, super anxiety ridden, and I feel for them a lot. And that's not the best. It's just not a very good situation.